I've handled the bears, I've handled the mountain lions, and there's nothing better than handling the animal and at the same moment reach over and touch your piece. And that translation from touching the animal to going to your piece is just magic. It sends chills up my spine. So here we are out of Africa, so what I will do is I'll just roll into the parking lot and I won't think about any particular species I want to sculpt, and just know that when I see it, I'll know it. And it could be something as simple as a macaw, or it could be an African lion, who knows. But when I see it, I'll know. A lot of what I do, I feel, is like a weightlifter would do in the gym. You're just training, and the more exercise I get with species of animals I may not be that familiar with, the better I'm going to be. And I don't care if it's going to be something that's going to be castable or it's just going to be on the shelf for the rest of its life in clay. It'll never change. Photographs flatten everything out. And so when you're working in 3 dimensions and you don't have that quality of the 3rd dimension there in a photograph, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. If you're really excited about a piece and you're really inspired, I can't get that from a photo. But if I have the actual animal in front of me, I don't care if it's an African lion or an aardvark, to me it's a living creature, and I love trying to capture that spark of life that I see in front of me. And a photo will never, ever do that for me. So here I am, having been to Alaska several times, seeing grizzly bears from a distance through my binoculars, going to zoos and seeing grizzly bears. Now I'm actually in an enclosure with a grizzly bear that's very passive. He's imprinted, and the handlers there working with me and the bear. So I set up my portable sculpting stand, and the orders from the handler was, you were going to stay right here next to the vehicle with the passenger door open. If something happens, you get in the vehicle. As he was about 50 feet away with the bear, having it do the things I wanted to do to sculpt, about 3 days of this sculpting, and I'm at the front of the vehicle, I'm pretty happy with the piece I'm working with. And then the handler on the 3rd day says, would you like to touch the bear? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So the protocol was I was to walk behind the handler, up to the bear, reach around the handle like it was his hand, and let the bear smell it. So we did, and when I reached around, the bear smelled the palm of my hand and started nursing on my hand instantly. So the handler said, well, that's a sign of acceptance from the bear. Come around and see him. And when I walked around him, I could not believe what I was seeing. It was this massive, it was like a 5-gallon bucket with hair on it that was huge. And then I looked at my piece and thought, it is so lacking. At that same time, as I've got my hand out, the bear exhales on my hand. And it was like a draft horse breathing on me. Then the volume and the mass of that animal made perfect sense to me. That sense of the air hitting my hand changed that piece and every bear piece I've ever done ever since. The adrenaline rush never stops until you've gone too far. And so what'll happen is, well, I'll give you a good case in point. I was doing a wolf piece, and I loved the face on it. I had the expression the way I wanted, and it was one of those situations, as I was saying earlier, where every application of clay meant something, and I wanted to convey this tired mother, but very content because she has 4 cubs with her. And I had it really well done, I thought, for a field piece. And I knew it wasn't quite done, so I asked my wife, does it look a little unfinished yet? And she said, yes, it does. So I thought, okay, how many strokes with my tool will it take to go from what looks a little rough to finished? And on that entire wolf face, I counted 18 strokes in about 30 seconds. So I can go from a total adrenaline rush, knowing the piece is working, to a sick feeling in my stomach after too many strokes, and knowing I've erased something I really worked hard to get. So I have to get it back, and once I get that back, I know that's my barometer for if you keep messing with it, you're going to ruin it. And I stop. I make myself stop. And so then that's when the chills run up your spine and you can sit down and look at it and think, man, that was a blast. What a great ride. It was exciting, it's scary, it's invigorating, and it's the uncertainty of not knowing. I can take a chunk of clay and say, okay, how am I going to turn this chunk of clay and give the animal some reverence in my clay? And to be able to kind of convey that is a total drug for me. Sometimes I surprise myself about how good a piece will come out, and there are other times I'll surprise myself how bad a piece will come out. So I think there's just the perfect mix to keep me on my toes and keep me humble. I think I've learned the worst enemy of any artist is ego. And the minute you think you've mastered your profession is the minute you stop learning, and I never want to stop learning. I think it's so important to look beyond the piece you're doing and know that there's another level you're going to get to that you're going to be even happier with if you keep the frame of mind that you'll never master it. And I have enough pieces that humble me to really keep my feet on the ground and know that it makes me appreciate the pieces that do come together even more, because I know the 20 that failed before that are nothing more than the exercise I was talking about.
It's like a little language that you have with the paintbrush, and you talk to them and they talk back to you. Sometimes they obey, and sometimes you just go, well, I'm going to go get another brush. As I paint, as the paintings unfold, I don't have a plan from beginning to end. I have a beginning, and then I have a journey. And the journey is each step at a time changes the end of the journey, the outcome. So it's a wonderful way to work because it allows you maximum freedom and flexibility to allow the energies that are coming in to make this creative expression be able to use me as a tool, as opposed to me using the story as a tool. It's coming from inside me, and it's an authentic story. It's something I felt and experienced that happened to me. And so it comes out, and people, they resonate with authenticity. Where if somebody's telling you a story because they were told to tell you a story, and this is the story, it's different than if I tell you the story, because it was my story and I could tell it from the inside out. I painted this big painting and I thought I knew what I was painting, and it was the mountains at night, a flowering cherry bonsai tree, and the wind is blowing the blossoms off the trees, so you're getting the idea of beauty and impermanence and transformation from one state to another. I'm going, wow, it's really looking good. Well, these windows were open just like this, and in flies this giant white praying mantis and lands right there. It was just like I was painting here. It came and landed right in the corner of the painting. So I said, well, Mr. Praying Mantis, what, you want to be in this painting? And the praying mantis said, yeah, that's why I'm here. And I said, well, you can only go in the painting if you have a story. Do you have a story? The praying mantis said, well, yes, I have a story. My story starts with a question. Okay, what's your question? I said, did you know there's two kinds of praying mantises? There are praying mantises that prey on you, and there's praying mantises that pray for you. And I'm the praying mantis that is praying for the falling blossoms of love. And I went, you got it, you're in. Would you sit still for a minute? And it did. You know, the praying mantises are, they'll stand in one place forever. I try to paint every day. And that way I feel things are moving forward. I don't like to stop. I don't get bored. I always have 1,000 things or 10,000 things, like they say in the Tao Te Ching, that I want to do. They're there and I want to show them my way of looking at them to others. When you do it for, for 60 years, it becomes like a second part of who you are. It's not a struggle anymore. It's a pushing into territories with the tools that you've finally honed your whole life, and to be able to express the things that are coming through in a way that are harmonious and radiant and full of the wholeness of what people want to have for an experience in their own lives. The art is never completed until someone else has received it. That doesn't mean they have to buy it, but they're standing in front of it and they get it, and then they share it. They share it back to me, or with someone else, but preferably back with me. We always say, if somebody buys a big piece of art, I want to go to dinner, have a bottle of wine, and sit and talk about what it was that connected them and what it was that connected me, and how those two things show us that we have something deeply inside of us that's in common, that is very special and makes us human. But there are people who come in and they weep in front of the paintings. How beautiful is that? That to me, that's the end of my journey. And that's what I want to leave behind, that can go on without me actually being there. Because to me, that's the energy that I want to imbibe in my art to share with others. And it is the sharing that is the greatest part. In Japan, a painter's name is bestowed upon the artist when his peers feel that what you're doing is you. It's not a copy of anyone else. It's really it's individuated creativity coming from your soul being expressed into the world. And so they give you what is called a chop or a gago, and you stamp the corner of your painting with it. And my name that I was given was Honshin, and Honshin means the original mind is the heart. It's about things coming from the heart, from the inside, expressing themselves. And that's what they felt I was doing. So it's a very honorable name, and I want to keep it in line. And most important though, it's about the energy that comes through that name and through me, not about my personality. And I want the energy to be out there for people to share in the future when I won't be here any longer. Always when I paint, each brushstroke, it comes with a prayer. And those prayers are for the success of the journey I'm on, and that the results will benefit all human beings and all life everywhere.
Yeah, it's just a bliss. It's just, I don't know. I want to explain it. It's like a high. Nothing else is in my mind but me and the thing. I think it's healthy. That's why I look so good for 105. I was working at my friend's clothing store. I was 22 or 3, 1967. And I always made things since I was really little. I started at night whittling stuff and putting it around the store, and people start talking about it. I was staying with these two friends in a small apartment, and they were talking about saving money and going to India. And, well, I lived there for a year, and one day I had some pieces in the clothing store, and a guy bought 3 heads I made for $900. I'm 23 years old. I felt rich. I said to my 2 friends, I got the money to India. Finally, they got their money. We go. And I went to India and spent 5.5 months. And the whole time I was there, I'm thinking, wow, before I left, I made those heads. A guy gave me money for them. That's going to be my job. I'm going to be a wood sculptor when I get back. So 5.5 months, every day I thought about, when I do go back, I know what I'm going to do. I thought about it every day. And the second day I came back, I bought chisels, about 4 chisels. And I never looked back. I never did anything else but that. Since that day, I was carved wood. Well, a lot of it is the sound of the tapping, the smell of the wood, the way each wood works differently, and you kind of get into that part. You just start working and it just feels good, and I just go there automatically. I don't have to work to get to that spot. The work takes you there. So it's basically mallets, chisels, hand saws, rasps, rifflers, files, and sandpaper. Those are the tools. And I really pride myself on not Dremel tools. You don't have the connection with the wood with a power tool like I have with tapping it and just feeling everything. Hear that sound? It's great. Usually I have it quiet in here. And then when I take a break, I sit down and strum the ukulele. It just changes everything, then I go back to it. You get so involved. Sometimes I forget to eat, you know. If my wife's home, she'll remind me, and she helps me with that. Otherwise, really, if she's out of town, sometimes I work all day and I don't eat. But it just takes you, it's so much fun and exciting. You don't know anything else is happening at the time. I mean, if I didn't have that, I probably couldn't have done all this in my whole life. But I don't even know what the motivating force is. It's just fun. And then people love it. It's like music, it's uplifting. I don't very rarely do something dark. It's just not in my head, you know. I mean, you turn on the news, sometimes life's hard, you get sick, people you know are dying. But most of my stuff is fun to look at. Like, when all my stuff's in here, I could sit here for hours and see it not like I did it. Like, is this fun shit or what? You know, I forget that I did this. An owl is fun to do, a puppet is fun to do, colorful fit, masks. These are all scrap wood. I don't have an idea. I just take a little piece of wood and I'll make something fun. I don't say I'm gonna do a whimsical piece today. I'm just working, and I guess that's my inner attitude. You know, I'm still learning about why all this, I've done this my whole life. I mean, I still don't have all the answers. It comes from somewhere else. I don't feel like I'm really metaphysical or spiritual or anything like that. But I guess I am when I'm working. I'm centered, you know. So I guess I'm in that higher place. But I don't really know. I just know how to make the stuff. Hands are cold. A lot of times just coming here at night, sit in that chair by the computer and just look at all this stuff, and I can't believe it myself. That much time and work has gone into this. I was having such a good time all these years. I don't feel like I worked 50 years that hard, but I mean, physically it was hard work. I never thought of it until recently. You know, I just plowed through it. Never got rich, but I'm rich because I can't wait to wake up and work. And I have a fantastic, beautiful wife, 2 kids. I have everything, really. I'm hoping that my 2 kids will maybe get it in a museum or something. Take what they want, but I have so much. Hopefully they put it somewhere where it could be seen, because my whole life went into it, you know.
I think I've made well over 300,000 stone beads in my life, and each one is a bit of an effort to make. And yet, I haven't made one yet that I think is, that I haven't made some mistakes along the way. Isn't that amazing? When I do a casting of tufa stone, or when I'm soldering two gold things together, there's a chance, because I have my own homemade solder that isn't very good, and I have a really old torch that doesn't really put the heat where I want it, and I'm having to heat up everything to accomplish this solder. I'm just sweating. It's like, wow, I'm gonna ruin all my gold and be back to square one. And the fact that those tools aren't really the right tools causes all these opportunities, both in my mind, also in the piece, for new experiences to come. It's like trying to fly in a really bad plane and trying to get it off the ground and then land it again. That would be a very different experience than actually getting into a competent plane that has a good track record of getting from A to B. I always get in the plane that's never been flown before and really doesn't have the wings put together right. And then I come up with a piece of jewelry at the end. And so that, to me, is, I don't know, endearing or innocent as that is, it's the value of unpreparedness coming to light again and again in my life. I wasn't really ready for this interview. I wasn't ready to make that ring yesterday, but it's like I'm still doing it. The opportunity to make something comes from all of the previous failures. So you just get in there and you try. And if it doesn't work, don't get so hung up on that. Just go, the reason it didn't work is because I made this mistake. Go to the next one and do the next one. You're not gonna fix that first one. You just have to get a few under your belt and keep going. If I sit there and go, what am I gonna make? I won't even start. So I just start making something and I don't even know what it is. And usually it morphs into something else, or it gets put aside as I get calm and in my groove, and then I'll pick up the next project and be able to work. And perhaps no good art really gets finished, it just gets abandoned. I liked that quote when I heard it last year. If you just have a couple of basic tools and a desire to make something, and a willingness to pay attention to what's working and not working with those tools and what you tried to do, the next step unfolds for you. And that can happen for a whole artistic career. It wasn't that I chose the turquoise. The turquoise came to me and I was interested, so I'm still doing that. It might be something different in the future, but right now it's turquoise jewelry for 25, 30 years now. Just start it. If you want to be a potter or if you want to be a wood bowl turner, just turn a wooden bowl. And if you don't have the right tools, you could get a really, really tiny piece of wood and make a really, really tiny little bowl, and you could do that right now. And then you'll know what to do after that. But don't dream that you want to be a bowl maker and not make bowls. You just make really bad bowls. Make 500 really bad ones, and then maybe you'll make a good one. But if you just want to make something and you think you need an education or the right training or the right environment, I think you're mistaken. And you'll never be able to fly on this journey of trying to land that plane that doesn't have very good wings.